I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. Well, welcome to Chairwaves. My guest today is Scott Bunce. Scott is joining us from the greater Atlanta metropolitan area. Welcome, Scott. So nice to meet you.
Oh, it's great to meet you, and I'm excited to be part of this.
So I'd love to start by, and I do want to get into your career before Vistage, but I feel like a great place to start with this is you've got a really unconventional story about how you actually became a chair.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So I would love to hear that.
Yeah, so without going through all of my background, maybe around 8 years ago, I joined a family vacation rental business, and I'm acting as the president of the company. And the owner of the business was a Vistage member. And he came to me and he said, "Hey, do you know Vistage?" I did not at the time. And he goes, "Well, you know what? I'm going to sponsor you for a year. And if you like it, you can pay out of your own pocket and play as much as you want in Vistage, and we'll see what you get out of it." And so I was sponsored for a year, and it was great. And in that year, I started to acquire businesses for the company. And in the time that I've been with Vistage, I've acquired 6 companies on behalf of the family for the family run business. And I just had a great experience. So I was sponsored for a year. I paid out of my own pocket for 4 years. I had a great chair. He was a mentor. He helped guide me through the peer-to-peer advisory group of all the pitfalls and opportunities that go with a family business, acquiring business, COVID, the ups, the downs of all of that. And I was just such a fan. And unexpectedly, approximately 3 years ago, he got sick and he passed away. And it broke my heart. I mean,
So sorry to hear that.
thank you for saying that. This guy he was walking on water for me. And I felt, when I grow up, and here I am, 63, turning 64 this month, when I grow up, I want to be in that position where I help others succeed the way that he did for me. So when he passed away, the senior vice president of Vistage at the time asked all the members in my group who should take on leading the group, and they unanimously asked me to take over. And it's been
Wow.
my privilege now for close to 3 years to take over the group. At the time, I think we were at about 8 members, and now we're up to 17 members. So it was quite the journey, and I've been so excited about what I've been able to do with this group. And as I am transitioning this family business to a son in law along the way, I'm actually going to co chair a new group in the fall and going into the new year. So, my whole mission in life: help others the way I was helped, get involved in more groups, and let the journey continue.
I really love that, and obviously, even in thinking that hey, I might do this one day. Certainly, those circumstances were not the way that you had ever conceived of that happening. And so that must have been I imagine that must have been a really, really bittersweet time for you because, there's obviously an opportunity here, but you're also mourning and the rest of the group is also mourning.
Yeah, it was different, right? Right from that first meeting after he passed, and as I was stepping up into that role, and at the same time, I was going through the Vistage Academy, which
Right.
lasted several months, which I picked up some great tools and tricks along the way. Yeah, it was quite the journey, and it was emotional not only for me but for the members. But time heals all wounds, and we'll never forget the former chair. And but we're off to the races, and excited about what new is coming forward.
Now, did you do was there a gap? Did you guys do were you leading meetings while you were taking Chair Academy, or
Yes,
how did that's wild.
and it was interesting because while his pass was relatively sudden. There was a handful of weeks where he wasn't feeling well, and he actually asked me to help him in a Zoom capacity run a meeting. So actually, before I officially took over, I had kind of training wheels on. But yeah, that's how that all went down.
When the group unanimously voted for you to take over, was that a surprise? Was that planned? Is that how you thought that was going to go, or what was that like for you?
Well, nothing in life is certain, right? And while I had envisioned myself becoming a Vistage chair, because at that point it was being a member for about 5 years, knowing that my career is going to be changing, it was in the back of my mind as something that I wanted to explore. Having it come true, but in that disappointing way of losing my mentor, it's a roller coaster of emotion, a roller coaster of emotion. But um, I had my hopes when the senior vice president reached out to the members, and to my gratification, the chips fell my way, and now I feel it's my duty to uphold his legacy and to make their wishes for me to take over the group do well. And now that it's just about at the 3 year mark, I feel like I'm there, and it's the group is now made up of more new members than the original members along the way. So the group dynamics different. It's a very positive, growing experience for the group and myself along the way.
And of the, I think you said that there were 9 members at the point that you took over. How many of them are still with the group?
There were two members, and I've already excluded that in the count, that had already given their notice. So
Oh, okay.
there might have been 10 or 11 members, but at the time that I took over, not including the two members that gave notice before I was
Gotcha.
even involved, I think they gave their notice 1 to 2 months before he passed. Um, yeah, but since then, all members have stuck around, and
That's
so
incredible.
that is incredible. That is incredible, and it's again, it's gratifying. It's one of the reasons why I love being a chair, is seeing people, and then I'm the new blood. I definitely have brought some new ideas. In fact, the chair had been with Vistage for so many years that it's been, I'm going to guess 15 years, maybe or more, since he had been to Academy, and Academy has evolved. So I
Oh,
had
sure.
tricks that he hadn't learned in Academy that I was able to bring to the table along the way. So that was positive as well.
That's really terrific, and it's a and the fact that you still have the roster that you inherited plus a whole lot more. That's a testament to how much the folks in your group believe in you, which is terrific.
Yep, yep. Eric, thank you for pointing that out.
So let's rewind a little bit and let's go back to your pre-Vistage career, and you worked primarily in the hospitality business Tell me about your first career.
Yeah, my first career maybe was by accident.
That's a story that a lot of us have.
I graduated with a 4 year business degree and didn't know what I was going to do with that business administration degree. And I followed a girl down to Florida without a job. And the first job that came along was in a resort. And all of a sudden, I kind of fell in love with the hospitality world. First, it was food and beverage, then, it was running hotels and resorts along the way. And while the career in hospitality took off, the girl didn't, and that relationship didn't. But but it was all for the best, right? So I ended up working for multiple brands of hotels. I worked for Marriott, I worked for Hilton, I worked for Radisson, I worked for some independent resorts, which took me all over the world. I had territories started in the Great Lakes region, went on to up and down the east coast of the United States. Then I had a region that was everything west of the Mississippi of the United States. And then I got called to go to Europe, and where I was a vice president of revenue management in Europe for all European countries, including a little bit of the Middle East and Far East. And then I came back to the United States after a 4.5 year stint, and I was a vice president for sales and revenue management for Hilton. My territory was Canada, Caribbean, and the South America, and it was a great career. And then I decided I was going to go start my own business.
Now, at this point that you're basically globe hopping with the big hotel chains, were were you married at the time? Did you have a family? How was that?
I was married, and when I went to Europe, I think my two boys were 2 and 5 approximately, and there was the whole issue of putting kids into a local school in Belgium, and half of Belgium speaks Flemish, the other half speaks French. And where do you put them into school? And we first started out in a Flemish speaking commune and school, and there were bumps in the road. We ended up transferring them to an international school that was worked out much better for us along the way. It was my first time experiencing how much a international school could cost for children. But the good news was with my expatriate package, they covered the education for the children, but it was almost like putting kids into college. It was
Right.
just that expensive. And it turns out that my older son struggled ADHD, and that Flemish school was not the right experience. We got him into international schools, and then things started taking off and blossoming, and it worked out so well. I had a wonderful international experience. Wasn't even quite sure I would leave Belgium, but my wife at the time didn't have the same experience. We ended up coming back to the United States partially because she struggled living internationally. And for any spouse or couple that has gone through an international move, not every spouse has the same experience. And while I flourished, she struggled. So we came back to the United States. Unfortunately, we ended up going through a divorce. The hope was coming back to the United States, it would help the marriage. It didn't. But now I've been remarried for 20 years to the love of my life, and she's on a journey. And here's where I'm going to say things have wound up. In this summer, I think in September, she is signing up for Chair Academy.
Oh wow.
And it's really exciting. While she still has some work in her current job, the intent is that at some point we co chair not only the group that I have now, but the group I'm going to start on in the fall. And that the hope is she ends up launching a group within the next year as well. And I think that there is a dynamic, and I hear tell of these couples that have been co-chairs that just do very well, right? So while I think I'm a fairly good coach, there is a male female dynamic that I think she's going to bring to the table, that the two of us will be better co chairs together than I could be or she could be as an individual chair. So we are really excited about that journey that we're on.
That's amazing. Now, so your wife decides that she wants to go to Chair Academy. What's that conversation like? And what advice did when when this idea first came up, what advice were you giving her as somebody who was, a few years in?
You know, it's funny. She hears me talk Vistage day and night.
Of
And
course.
of course, she's got lots of opinions on my opinions, as couples do. And I said, look, if you really think that you could nail this, I see a lot of successful female chairs. And frankly, I think you could be fantastic. So I'm the one that kind of encouraged it. And while she might not be quite at the end of the career that I am, while switching more into Vistage, I said, I think that the two of us could conquer the world. And I think I've convinced her of that. So who knows how the journey is going to go? I'm not going to say that it's 100% success, but I think a lot of it is the mindset of what you've got. And I envision success for us as a couple. And I think she shares that vision that we'll be successful as a couple. And I told her, I said, I had a different view of the world going into the academy than I did coming out of the academy. And I saw the people going through the academy. There's a lot of people that go through the academy that don't make it to the end of the journey.
Correct.
And I've told her that. I said, look, just because you go into it does not mean the people that you go into it with or even yourself come out the other end and it's a slam dunk. It's not. It's work. It is a learning process. There is an education and an art to recruiting members that I never thought would be what I experienced. Well, I told you the story that I started with 8, 9 members of my group. It took me maybe close to a year to get the groove of recruitment in my spiel and my experience in Vistage,
Right.
and I could translate it to picking up members at a higher pace than when I started. Because when I started, even going through the academy, I was not polished. You need the experience. You need to go through some rejection. You need
Oh
to
yeah.
you need to test the spiel and how your experience marries up with their experience to get that success.
And
And it,
Vistage chairs sometimes endure a lot of rejection.
oh yeah, and I was one of them. And I thought, hey, I've got a group. Well, how tough can it be? But it took me about 9 months of, and it's not like I didn't have any success in the 9 months, but I'll tell you, my percentage of success has gone way up after that 9 month mark of trial and error.
Yeah. So you it was the other way around from the way that I had sort of guessed, but so you're telling you're selling your wife on the idea that she should be a Vistage chair and that she should join you. What were her concerns, having seen your experience?
Well, she saw that I was very unique. I had a lot of discouragement from corporate Vistage that I could run this family vacation rental business and not start with a CEO group, but start with a key group. And keeping in mind that key members are usually a product of CEO members and nominating people that they want to advance their career. So I had
Right.
some cautionary tales that growing a key group without a CEO group might never work. And I had a cautionary tale of running a business and running a group at the same time is a recipe for disaster. Now, let me tell you, I'm one of the luckiest guys I know because, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast here, my owner of the company that I've been running was a former Vistage member. He knew what it was all about. He fully endorsed me to run his business, yet run a group at the same time. And that's the kind of support I don't think the average person is getting. And so I think I'm blessed. I think that I was able to prove that I could do both. Now, going back to your original question, my wife's going to be in that current scenario. She's a senior vice president of marketing for a company. She isn't going to just step away.
Right.
She's going to grow a group while running that business that she's in right now. She's going to have some of the same pitfalls, and she's going to be on a slightly different journey as she builds a group. But here's the difference, and I think this will be our secret sauce. She's going to be recruiting members. I'm going to be there saying I'm going to be part of the journey with her, and I'm going to be able to demonstrate it's been done before and that we as a couple can be success based on the successes that I've had.
And by the way, it is highly unconventional for a Vistage chair to start being a Vistage chair while also running a serious business.
Yeah,
That's that. I mean, certainly I know Vistage chairs that, and I've met Vistage chairs that will do some consulting and coaching. If they come from like a training background, they'll still do some facilitation and things like that. But the idea that you're actually running a business as an executive is terribly unconventional. Um,
it is.
I
And I'm sorry I'm interrupting,
No, no, no. Go ahead.
but let me throw out a really positive of Vistage. So this son-in-law that I'm mentoring to take over for me in the vacation rental business has now been he's now in his second level of Vistage himself. So he and I are speaking the same language, and he is getting ready to very quickly probably go into a CE group himself. But he
Very cool.
started in a AL group, and he's advanced to a key group, and I can see him going to a CEO group, and it's again I'm blessed to have the full family support, and there's some demonstration that Vistage has worked for him. It's worked for me. It's worked for the owner. It's just made for a great transition all the way around.
Now, whenever I talk to a chair, who, and bless you, by the way,
Thank you.
who's taken over for, they're in the group as a member, and although your circumstances were very different, um, but they end up taking over for the chair usually because the chair is retiring. I always ask those folks, what changed for you, and what had to change? What was the hardest part of that transition, being that you're still in the same room with the same people, but your role is very different and the expectations of you are very different?
Yeah, it's true, and stepping into a legacy's shoes was not fun. I spent a lot of time thinking about what made him a success. What could I emulate? But what new energy could I bring to the group? And in my heart, I felt like I could bring some new energy. Um, and I wasn't again expecting to pick up some tricks from the academy, but I did, and I picked up some tricks. And so I was able to apply it and apply it fast. I think it helped because as we were processing issues in the group, I was a very active member of offering suggestions. I was not a wallflower. The group knew that if there was tough questions and some carefrontational feedback to give, that I was going to be one of the first to do it. And I had given some tough love feedback leading up to it. Um, but, you know, maybe the hardest part, going back to your question, was, and I failed to mention this, I ran my own hospitality consulting business for 8 years. And I see a lot of potential new Vistage shares coming in, either thinking it's a consulting business or coming from a consulting business. But I had some tough love going through the academy where, as I was doing role play, some of the great people that were giving me feedback through the Chair Academy, they'd say, Scott, you're doing it wrong. You're not a consultant anymore.
Yeah.
You've got to back off that consultant's, you know it all, you give feedback attitude, and you got to let the group give the feedback, and you got to take a back seat and get away from even what you did as a member or what you did when you were running a hospitality consulting group. And that might have been the hardest transition for me, Eric, is not going at it like a consultant, but going at it more from a caring attitude to facilitate the group to get the member to the next level versus Scott to get the member to the next level.
Correct, because it's not your job to solve their problem, which is completely different from being a consultant. When you're a consultant, typically the idea is that I'm paying you
Yeah.
because I want you to solve my problem.
Yes. And frankly, I think my wife's going to have the same challenge, right? She's very smart, right? She went to Stanford. She's got all the skill set of the world, but yet, for her, as smart as she is, if I would anticipate her big challenge, it's making that same transition from having the answers to facilitating the members to have the answers.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for being a guest. This has been a great conversation. Really happy to have you here. Really glad that we got to hear your story in the very unique way that you got into being a Vistage chair. What's the best way for folks to get in touch with you if they have questions about Vistage, if they have a question about your key group, the new group you're starting? What's that going to be? Is that going to be a CE group?
So I'm going to co-chair with another chair in the fall, and yes, it will be a CE group.
Excellent.
In fact, it could be two of his groups. So, but that said, I'm going to have bandwidth for that and bandwidth for more. The best way to get a hold of me is scott.bunce, that's SCOTT .BUNCE at vistagechair.com, and my cell number, and I'm happy to talk to any chair wannabe, any other person that's looking for advice. My cell number is 970-389-4187.
Hey, thank you so much for being a great guest.
It was a pleasure being here with you.
Thanks so much.
All the best.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.